Kevin Dwayne Hughes, and this is my first time doing a live streaming and trying to teach at the same time other than using something like Zoom. So I figure what I'm going to do is give an introduction to what energy arts are. It's something that a lot of people aren't familiar with, but a lot of you actually are familiar with. You just don't know that you do know. So what is an energy art? Well, an energy art is anything that deals with the efficiency and use of internal energy within the body. So these are things like yoga, qigong, reiki, and a lot of different other things. I mean, massage can also be a form of energy art. Now, I myself have studied several different types of energy arts. I've studied various types of qigong and yoga, and some of these they're part of the kung fu training that I've done, or the karate training that I've done. Yoga, qigong type exercises have been a part of martial arts for a long time. So a basic introduction or a basic overview of what are energy arts. So we're dealing with the intrinsic energy in the body. It's not something magic, mystical, none of that BS type of stuff. There's people out there that claim to do magic with it. Those people are charlatans. They don't really know what they're talking about. Like there's people that do no-touch knockouts. That's BS. That's not what energy arts are about. Those people are charlatans. In my studies, I have categorized energy arts into different categories that I teach by, and these categories are largely irrelevant because it's all really the same thing. But energy arts are classified into static and dynamic methods. Static, of course, being not moving, dynamic meaning that there's movement. So 3 types of static energy arts would be soft static, hard static, and vibrational static. Now, vibrational static sounds like an oxymoron because static's supposed to be no movement, but the vibrational is coming from like your vocal cords and stuff like that. And it gets more complicated than that. We'll worry about talking about that later, depending on how deeply I decide to teach energy arts here on social media. Anyhow, soft static would be doing like yoga poses, like mountain pose, where you're just standing there, relaxing, and allowing the muscles in the body to just relax. Hard would be like a yoga pose, where like goddess pose, where you're holding the muscles into a state of tension, and it's hard on the muscles to do. In goddess pose, you're down in a deep sumo squat, and your arms are held out to the sides. So that would be hard static. Now, those 3 categories then come out into your dynamic ones, or the movement ones. So you can have hard dynamic qigong that's moving fast or moving slow. Then you can have soft dynamic qigong, and yoga too, because yoga, qigong is all really the same thing when you get down to the nitty gritty of it. But the hard and the soft, or the hard fast, hard slow, then you have soft fast and soft slow. And then of course, then you also have vibrational dynamic qigong. Give you an idea, so a lot of people are familiar with Tai Chi, slow moving old people in the park. Well, that slow motion without dynamic tension, just relaxed, slow movement, that would be slow and soft qigong, or slow and soft energy work. Slow and hard, if you are familiar with Gojuru karate, they do Sanchin kata, and it's done under dynamic tension. That would be an example of a hard and slow qigong exercise. And of course, hard and fast would be like a traditional karate or kung fu form. And then you have hard and soft. That would be the same, where everything's moving, flowing quickly, but you're not snapping at the end of the motions. And then dynamic, vibrational would be you move the body out, but you're shaking whatever you're moving at the same time. Then when it comes to what's the purpose of the different modes of training energy arts, well, whenever you're doing something slow, the objective is to increase the efficiency of the flow of energy. It also allows you to stretch the joints and run them through a range of motion, and some systems call the joints gates. As the joints increase in range of motion, the easier the energy, the intrinsic, internal energy of the body will flow through those gates. Now, when we're moving slow, we're articulating the joints slowly. We're able to stretch out the joints. So that when I move slowly, I just don't move it to the end. I kind of stretch, reaching for whatever I'm doing. And by doing so, I open the gates up more in the body. And as the gates open up more, the energy flows more efficiently through the energy channels in the body. So that's the purpose of doing the soft type of Qigong. Hard Qigong, on the other hand, works on storing the energy. Now, mind you, these terminology and philosophies for explaining all this are based upon ancient ideas and based upon the ancient peoples having lesser understanding of what was actually happening. So when we're saying storage of energy, we're talking about you're doing dynamic tension, so the muscles are under tension, they're under stress. You're simulating a load as if you're actually moving a weight, even though there's no weight in your hands. And what this does is causes the muscles to grow. And so the growth of the muscles, in ancient speak, you're storing energy. Now, technically, since mass has energy, as you increase your mass, you're increasing the amount of energy in the muscles because the mass went up. But that's neither here nor there. Just realize hard Qigong is designed to increase the amount of muscle mass, and that soft Qigong is designed to improve the flexibility and range of motion of the joints at a most basic anatomical level. Now, the stuff gets a lot more complex and deeper than this as we go on, but I'm not going to get into the absolute depths of this. I just want to give a basic overview of what energy arts are and what they're doing. So basically, if you go to a yoga class and your yoga class just does some fancy poses, stretching, some muscle building poses like plank and stuff like that, but there's no energy work, no concepts for maximizing the flow of energy, then your yoga is not a true yoga. It's a mimic of yoga. It's just the external shape, as we call it, and the internal shape is missing. So with that said, when we talk about these shapes, an internal shape would be what's going on inside. External shape is what's going on outside. So if you're doing a Tai Chi form, what you see with your eyes is the external shape. You can't see the internal shape very easily with your eyes because it's happening inside the body. And at my Tenkido-kan school, we have this split up into 5 levels of understanding. So the first level of understanding is the external shape and the gross movements. So whereas I could sit there and push with the external shape, I can have a gross motor movement that looks like a push, but it's not very efficient. It's chaotic. It doesn't look pretty. There's no gracefulness to it. That would be the gross external shape, and that's level 1 that we try to look at when we are teaching, or when I'm teaching Qigong. And level 2 would be the fine external shape. Now there's gracefulness and the movements look pretty. Then after that, you proceed into the first stage of the internal shape. The first stage of the internal shape is simply a matter of things going on the inside of the body that you can't see. For example, while we're doing energy work, the tip of the tongue should go to the roof of the mouth. Now, there are different places on the roof of the mouth to touch, but for basic beginner level work, the tip of the tongue should go into the roof of the mouth. And you know how the roof of the mouth has a concave shape? The tongue goes right into the top of that concave shape. So that would be an example of the first level of internal shape that you're working on. The second level of the internal shape is the actual movement of energy, and whereas we can't observe this very easily, the way that we test for it is we have someone stand in like a mountain pose, which is a yoga pose, and we have them do the internal energy work while standing there still. And if they have their internal shape at the second level, then they will actually be able to stand there and start sweating because they're heating their body up by moving the energy in their body. The fifth level is the ability to extend the energy past your body. Now, this is not magic foo-foo stuff. One way we can test for this stuff is, so if I were to push a target, how deeply my push penetrates into the target. So it's none of this no-touch garbage. That's hocus pocus, fraudulent BS. So if I'm pushing and I'm able to extend the energy through, then my push will actually go deeper into the target than if that extension of the energy were not happening at all. Again, it's more of an how the ancient peoples who developed this stuff understood it than what was actually going on. It's not like you're shooting laser beams out of your hands. That's bupkis. But it's just the efficiency. The body movements have become so efficient that whenever I hit something with energy, it travels deeper than it would have otherwise. You can take this think of it like a laser beam. If I shine a flashlight at someone, the light can shine in their eyes, and it might cause them to lose their night vision for a bit, and they shut their eyes and everything's fine. They're being hit with that flashlight, but it's not causing much damage because some of the energy is going off in different places. So there's a huge loss of energy due to inefficiency in the collimation of that beam of light coming from the flashlight. But if I focus that beam of light through lenses and stuff like that, and I collimate the light into a single column so all the photons are going the exact same direction, then if I hit the person in the eyeballs, I'm going to burn through their retina. I might burn a hole through their head depending on how much intensity energy the laser beam has. So that's what we mean by that extending the energy. The energy flow in the body has become so efficient that when you push or something like that, the energy is more efficient. There's more energy being delivered, and therefore more damage and penetration to the target will occur. And I hope that all makes sense and that you're following the concepts here that I am talking about. But anyhow, this is basically what energy arts are and why it's important in martial arts training. So if I learn to become efficient in my movements, I will actually hit harder when I'm using martial arts for real. So one example I use when I'm teaching Tai Chi is the reason for the slow movement is you don't need to use every single muscle fiber to move your body. Now, when we go fast, the momentum can carry you past sleeping muscle fibers. It doesn't care. There's enough momentum to go past it, so you don't need to use all of your muscle fibers. So when we go slow, and especially if you're not used to doing it, you'll notice that the movement is very jerky. And every time there's a jerk, that's an inefficiency in the flow of energy through that in particular muscle system. So through continued practice, what happens is the flow of energy will sit there and hit a dead spot in the movement. That's where your jerk is. And over time, those muscles will learn to, or those muscle fibers will say, hey, we need to wake up and be used. And then eventually over time, you'll start to see that the movement becomes less and less jerky and smoother and smoother and smoother. As it becomes smoother, that means more and more muscle fibers are becoming activated and involved in the movement. Now, when you now go fast, all of those muscle fibers are now involved. Guess what that means? More muscle fibers involved in the motion, the harder you're going to hit now. And this is why Tai Chi does slow training. So just keep that in mind. Some people, I've heard people say, what's the point of training slow? You're not going to fight slow. Well, it's because I can hit harder if I train slow. It just takes a long time to get that gracefulness and efficiency in the movement down. Human beings are a lot stronger than what we perceive ourselves to be, and this comes also to nervous system impulses. for example, when you're lifting weights, your initial strength increases are not due to added muscle fibers. Your initial strength increases are actually due to improvements in the efficiency of the central nervous system, delivering messages into the muscle fibers, and your motor neurons efficiently activating each muscle fiber. So at first, your strength increases are because your muscles have become more efficient at coordinating with each other to move the weight. So you'll hit a plateau. When you hit that plateau, that's when the body goes, okay, the nervous system is at maximum efficiency. Now we have to add muscle mass. So yeah, when you hit that first plateau in weightlifting, that's when you need to sit there and just keep going. It's not because, oh, you've hit your maximum strength. It's because now your body says, okay, now we got to grow. So again, when I'm doing that slow motion in something like Tai Chi, and I'm making everything smooth out and become graceful, I'm recruiting more muscle fibers into the movement, which is the same thing that weightlifting is doing whenever I'm sitting there becoming more efficient at coordinating all the muscle fibers together. So let me give you a story here. There was a guy walking, I think it was in the Grand Canyon, and a piece of the cliff face cleaved off and fell on him. Big slab of rock. And it was enough to crush him, but he didn't die. He basically got pinned, and then the next thing you know, he heaved the whole rock off of himself and down the other side of the trail, off the other cliff face. So it was like, cliff face, trail, and then another cliff face below it. He broke every bone in his body doing it, but basically what happened is, in that exact moment where death was coming, his body decided to take all self-limitations, such as his nervous system not being efficient, muscle fibers not firing, and basically it became 100% efficient, and all the muscle fibers fired, and he propelled that ginormous rock off of himself. I think there's a National Geographic special on him, or maybe it was on Superhumans that it showed up on. But anyhow, it's not out of the ordinary. It's just at that moment in time, his mind decided to make his body 100% efficient. And he was able to move that massive weight, but since his bones and tendons and things weren't used to moving that much force all at once, he broke his bones. But overtraining, slow progression, your bones and other things can be made strong enough to withstand. So anyhow, I hope this helps people understand the importance of doing yoga, qigong, and other energy arts as part of your martial arts training. It's also good for any other sort of training. I mean, doing regular physical fitness, following the ideas of energy arts will help improve everything that you do in your daily life. Now, going into some other subjects here, some people will be like, oh, qigong, yoga, that's spiritualism. Yoga belongs to Hinduism. You're being Hindu when you do yoga. That's not actually true. There are different types of yoga, qigong, and again, I'll just call it energy arts in general. So there are energy arts for healing the body. There are energy arts for maintenance of health. There are energy arts for martial arts, and we call it like martial qigong, which is for improving the efficiency of your martial arts technique so you become more efficient at combat. Then there is scholarly energy arts, and their main idea is to improve the energy uses in the noggin there. Then there are spiritual energy arts. Those are the ones that if you practice, then you're practicing a specific sect of spiritualism or a specific sect of religion. So if you're doing yoga as Hindu spiritualism, then you're doing Hinduism. But if you're using yoga as a way to improve your health and your life, and you're not using it for spiritual things, then you're doing the type of yoga that's for health maintenance. So just keep that in mind. So like I have a lot of people who are Christians, they say, oh, you do yoga, you're a Satanist. It's like, well, that's not actually true. There's different types of yoga, and you would know that if you were educated on the matter. So I don't do the Hindu type spiritualist yoga. I have friends in India who do yoga who are Hindu, and they tell me the exact same thing. There's different types of yoga for different types of purposes, and yoga's made for everybody, and yoga is not a property of Hinduism, and yoga is only becomes Hinduism if you're using it for Hindu purposes. Other than that, it's exercise, people. That's all it is. Anyhow, there's a good overview of energy arts. I'm going to start giving instructions on how to do these because, like I told you, if you're doing yoga and you're just doing the poses but none of the internal work is involved, you're not doing a true yoga. You are doing something that looks like yoga, but it's not. And as I say in my yoga classes, without the internal energy work, you're just doing fancy stretches is all you're doing. So, over time, instructional videos will be coming out on how to do yoga, how to do Qigong. We'll talk a little bit about Reiki. Now, Reiki is one of those where that one right there gets into spiritualism. And what I have done is I have filtered the spiritualism out and left the other components. That way, it doesn't matter what religion or faith or spiritual path you walk on. It doesn't matter. You can take the non-spiritual parts of Reiki and learn from it. And once you do that, Reiki then just becomes Japanese Qigong. Also, over time, I'm going to be talking about different methods of hard Qigong, different methods of soft Qigong, getting into the small microscopic details of what's going on in the internal work. So I'll be doing instructional lessons on here's the external shape, here's how to go from the gross motor movement to the fine motor movements, and then I'll be doing lectures on the internal on how to make the internal parts work. Anyhow, make sure you give me a follow. I don't know exactly what times I'm going to be teaching these, but keep an eye on my wall. I'll eventually post a video saying I'll be teaching this subject at this time on these days. Also, use the Tenkidokan handle, TENKIDOKAN, and look for me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And I'll be posting information on all of those medias. And eventually what will happen is I'll post one video here, and then I'll post the same video somewhere else, but at a different point in time. And I'll put slightly different information on different videos. Because one thing I found is that as you teach, the more exposure someone gets to a subject, even if it's the exact same thing, the better they're going to get it down. So if you go to each of the different outlets I have, and then you sit there and study the video on each outlet with slightly different information on each video. Now, it's all going to be congruent information. It's not like contradictory. It's all going to be congruent. It's just slightly different parts of the picture I'm going to give you on each social media outlet. And by doing that, I'm hoping the exposure over and over and over again will help you get this stuff down better. Tomorrow, and I'm a night shift worker, by the way, so my tomorrow is not your tomorrow if you're a day shift worker in the USA, but if you're awake during the day in the Philippines or Southeast Asia, then my night is your day. It all works out that way. But anyhow, tomorrow I'm going to be posting instructional videos on how to do some basic, the external shape for some basic hard Qigong and soft Qigong exercises. I'm going to start posting some basic information on how to do iron palm training for iron body conditioning, and eventually over time I'll teach you how to iron body condition the entire body. I will also be giving instructions on Hakutsuru Kempo, which is a type of Okinawan karate it's like the karate within the karate, if you want to put it that way. I'll also be giving some instruction on Shorin-ryu karate and Goju-ryu karate as well. Okinawan Koburo Kobujutsu, and some instruction on Jiu-Jitsu and various Kung Fu that I know, such as Wing Chun and Tai Chi Chuan. Oh, notice, Tai Chi, it's not actually Chi, it's like Ji. Tai Chi. And then the Chuan is actually twin. It's kind of hard to Romanize Chinese, so Tai Chi Chuan, I'll eventually be putting lessons up on Facebook as well. Again, the videos will show the external shape. The lectures will help you understand the internal shape. And then hopefully over time, you can start to absorb and accumulate and then be able to do the internal shape. And maybe one day, if you're following me, I'll get to meet you in person and help fine-tune and correct the internal shape, because the internal shape for any martial arts is why 100% pure online lessons is actually impossible. There's certain things you just have to experience and feel. But I can at least get you started. And then later on, if we can meet in person one day, I can then help you fine-tune and get the internal shape correct. Yeah, y'all have a wonderful time. Again, I'm Kevin Dwayne Hughes. I'm the founder of the Tenkido-Kan School, which is a school of martial arts, energy arts, fitness, and other things. And I look forward to working with you guys. And please ask questions. I'm an open book. I will do my best to answer your questions. And as some people will attest, like I see CJ Rivera's watching, he can testify I'm like a walking encyclopedia of this stuff. Anyhow, y'all take care. We'll talk to you later. Now, how to end